I'll start with a little metaphor so that you get a feeling on how we feel when we start a project. So there was a young student that was called Max. It's not you, Max, sorry. And he wanted to start physics. So he went to this university, and the lead there told him, well, Max, maybe it's not the right study because everything in physics is already discovered and invented. Everything. So please go and find another interest. And this is how we feel a little bit, right? You enter a big new project, a lot of work there, a lot of people work in that company, and they all tell you, we tried it already, didn't work out. So it will also not work out for you. Or a couple of other claims. I guess you know where I'm going, right? So this young student was called Max Planck. And if you are a little bit into physics, this very young student discovered the Planck's length. Incredible discovery, groundbreaking. He won, I don't know, a couple of Nobel Prizes. So why did he do that? Obviously, you need a good student, a student that believes in the skills, but you also need the right professor. So he switched the dude to a little bit more smarter person. And our professor is Stephen, he's also here in the audience. He helped us to ship all that stuff, and we were the student that believed in the skill. And as we did it, we nailed it, and here is the nice NX logo. I hope the metaphor makes a little bit of sense. Okay, my name is Michael. I'm the CEO of Push-Based. I do a lot of training, consulting, with the focus also on architecture, not only on all the other topics that we pitched before. And as you see on the picture, I really look very serious. I try to do my best online. In person, it's different. What's the agenda? I do a high-level talk. I don't do that a lot, so I hope I don't disappoint the ones that are used to the more technical ones. I will show you 4 steps. How we start a project, how we prepare to move a monorepository, like multiple repositories, into that monorepository, how we do it in parallel. It's very interesting, and I guess this is the key. It's like doing it in parallel and don't talk too much to other people because that costs a lot of time, and how to measure it. I'm internally known and hated to always want to measure things and get numbers out of it. So I will show you how we measure our progress internally. The company example that I will use today is Entain. Entain is a very unknown brand, but it's massive, and behind that brand there are a couple of other brands in the betting industry, casino, sports, all that stuff. Most probably you know 1, 2, 3 of those platforms. So we migrate all of them into one. And how do we start? Whenever we approach a new company, a new code base, a new team, we want to know what's on the table. So we start an audit. We are a lot into performance, but this time I show you how we do an architecture audit. So what is our architecture audit about? I put in minimum 3, maximum 5 people, no matter how big the size is. And they look over the code base, they have a couple of chats, we produce a big PDF, really big one. And this big PDF is very different from what I saw from other audits because we don't really include a lot of fluff. We have facts, we have very specifically explained what the problem is, and then we put a detailed step-by-step description on how you can solve that, so that you don't need to book us after you have the audit. You can just take it and do your job. That's it. If you like, you can also book us, of course. We have an executive summary on top, so people that are not that technical should also understand where the problems are and why you should fix that. And we try to estimate, if you solve all that problems, what your impact will be. That's the audit that I nearly always start with. And it's good because you know what's in front of you. After that, if we cooperate with the company further, we start to prepare the move. Yeah? So you have a couple of code bases, you want to move them and you don't just start. You want to know where to start first, what has the biggest impact, where is the biggest bottleneck. And we do that with a couple of things. One thing that we do is we try to define goals, migration goals. We have the audit, and then we make a little document, and in this document we have company-specific migration goals that point out what the company should or want to reach. As an example, these 7 or 8 goals we discovered for the recent project, a couple of names I guess you might already know: shared infrastructure, shared architecture, single version policy. All those goals are basically derived from small technical problems and named in a more broader way that you can tackle as an architect. We have the goals and we also try to prioritize the goals. And I use this metaphor and strategy. I stole it from the food industry. And there, and there you have 3 different things, 3 different priorities. First one is, you harvested already a couple of apples and you have someone that turned bad. So what you need to do very, very quickly is get rid of the bad apples. Otherwise, all the other apples turn bad, right? So this is the very first thing you need to do. Everything else is irrelevant. After you get rid of that apples, you can go a little bit more strategic. You can say, why did their apple even go bad, right? So maybe your harvesting process is not optimum. Maybe you squeeze the apples too hard when you pull them off the tree. So you try to talk to the people that harvest, you try to improve that process, and then you are done with it, and then you can do the next step and you can think, but how can I maybe grow a tree that is in general a tree that produces more robust apples, that you can squeeze harder and they don't get bad? What's so funny? Squeezing apples? Okay, I got it. So put the tree in the best soil possible, give him the best light, in best case sunlight, by the way, and then the apple will produce very solid apples, and you prevent a lot of the things before. But this is the order that you have to follow, and if you do it in a wrong way, you will just fail. Right? So this is how we prioritize and we group our actions. And then I just show a couple of findings that we have so that you see how we take this theory into practice. We dig in the code base, we find a couple of repositories, they are linked with each other in a good and in a bad way, and then we sort out and we pick the biggest bottleneck that we can find, and we say, like, with the smallest effort, we will land the biggest impact, and this is where we start. So we have that, we spotted that problem, then we draw some diagrams, right? So consultants always need to draw diagrams, they don't code. That's a thing, right? Not coding, just talking. So we have these diagrams, and then we look at that diagram. Maybe we add another repository so that we have the full picture from before, and we analyze it. And many people just look on the tooling side, which is at the bottom, right? So here at the bottom, we see all the red areas. This is where you could improve, or in other words, just use an X. But at the upper layer of this chart, you see the process, and this is what you cannot improve with an X. But it is also a big bottleneck. Look at the amount of red that you see here. It's nearly identical to the lower red. So always a couple of different layers that we respect. Next one, we stole it from the performance area, but I also applied that here. Every project has a couple of different layers. And at the very top, you have technical things. You have our goals, we have our strategy, how to go from A to B. Next thing, like what metrics and KPIs do we want to reach? And then you have monitoring. This is where people start to hate me again. How can we measure the impact? Give me numbers. We need to calculate it, we need to do stuff. This is one thing I want to point out. And the other thing that is also marked here is the personal layer. So where is the communication friction? Communication is hard. The bigger the team, the more you will waste in communication. And I always try to lay that out. So if you have problems, in that layer, you have a red box, and if something is red, it's a good opportunity to make it yellow and then green again. So this is more or less how we work. You can use the table and fill it with your own problems. It's very helpful, at least for me. Next thing, I have 9 minutes left. Moving in parallel. So this is really interesting because you have to know we've moved a couple of projects already, bigger ones, and it's always hard, but we get better. And this time we, I would say we made it a little bit more slick, and I'll show you how. So we prepared everything, and after this preparation phase where we evaluate everything and we see where the bottlenecks are, we do a couple of things. We work on different layers. I showed you already the different layers. And here we put those different layers into practice. What we do is we ship a migration guide. We consider a training program. We think about how to communicate within a company, and obviously how to measure. So what's the migration guide? Just that you get a little bit of an idea what we call a migration guide. It's, again, just text and images. We don't work, just talking. And in these images, you really see where we will start, what your company goals are, what's already done, how we will integrate our deliveries. Actually, we really code, but I always try to claim we don't. How we integrate our deliveries into the existing process, where we will start to connect with other teams, and this is a big day of talking that is then condensed into a nice document. We exactly name the stages. We say there is this kickoff meeting, there is the adoption phase, there is the alignment phase, and then with all of that, you can move your code into the Monorepo and it will just work. This is how our documents look like. They are very wordy, they have a lot of graphics, and they also include things like communication. This is how we decide how the Monorepo layout looks, right? Maybe most of you are used to app slips layout. Sometimes we take a different path. This time we chose the backend and packages way of dealing with the problem. Let's see how it goes. It's an ongoing project that I show you here. But we also not only talk about how we move the code, but how we will communicate that. So we set up a couple of things, who is included in daily syncs, who is included in weekly syncs, who is included in monthly syncs, and why. Because you cannot just put some people there. You need to know why those people should sit in the meetings and why not. In best case, as less meetings as possible, as less people as possible. So you really need the right people in the right place. But it's next training. Okay, so obviously they have a lot of skilled developers. I claim we are also very skilled, but you always need to learn, right? Every day, every month. And if you do big changes in a company, that also means big learnings. And this is also a well-known bottleneck that we try to tackle from the very beginning. So we sit together, we say, okay, these will be the challenges in the next 1 or 2 years that we need to fix. Where should we start? What should we train? What should we educate? And how is the feedback process? In every step, you see this small box, feedback. On the third box, you see a cursor. It's a bad screenshot. Just want to point out that all see the mistake. So you feedback the learnings from all the programs, and then you understand what trainings you should roll out, to whom you should roll out the trainings, how well they went. Did it pay off to do that training, or was it just 2 days of time and money waste? And somewhere at the end of this roadmap, you end up in just a little bit of consulting. They have questions. They ask you why the CI setup is broken, then you fix it, or I don't know, smaller things. But at some point, it goes down, and there is not a lot of training required. And then you measure the impact and the easiest go-to tool, obviously, you use Nxcloud. It tells you exactly how much you saved. And it makes nice graphics, charts. Again, not working, just charting. No, people really want to see charts because this is what they pay for, the saved time, right? But that's the tiniest part of the measures that we do. We chart our own things, we look at their productivity, we see how teams cooperate, how teams communicate, how it looks over time. And here we show when we come into play. So this green line here is when we help them for a problem. We try to flag that in time, and then we see if the line goes down. And in this case, we were lucky. The line went down significantly. Sometimes we measure no improvement, but that's the reason why we measure it. We can always tell if we land an impact or not. If we give other advices, like please do smaller releases and more often, it will help you. People say, yeah, we tried it. And I say, please try it again. And then, I do that. And then sometimes it improves. And here you see at the top this red axis, these are rollbacks. I'm not sure how often you release something and then you do a rollback. It's costly, but not only costly, it is a little bit stressy. People freak out when they need to do that. And I try to freak out people as less as possible. I try. Good. Little bit is left. Repository syncing. How? We are in the US. How the Fox, we synchronize hundreds of developers, 10,000s of teams of repositories with each other without talking to them. Because this is where you lose. When you start to believe you can give somebody a call in a bigger company and explain what your goal is, and this 7,000 times, nobody will book you. So you need a better strategy. What is our strategy? Building on top of an X is our strategy. And what we do is we build in an X plugin. And this NX plugin does a couple of different very cool things. First of all, this plugin, as we are in a polyrepo structure at the moment that goes into a monorepo, we need to release that. Right? So it's an npm package or a whatever registry you have package. You release it there, and over that package, you share a lot of things. And X is wonderful to do that because it's a structured, well-defined system. So we can share build logic. And if we fix a problem or if we migrate a new repository and abstract away another building block, we just put it in the plugin, release it, and other people install it, and it's there. No communication. We abstract away build targets with the new package V2 graph. It's possible. I guess Greg will do a talk today on that topic. We also give some actionable feedback over that thing. We ship documents in the package, README files, Markdown. We track progress in that package. We also have validators that check what is the state of your repository and what is missing for you to move in the monorepository. And then, of course, we report that. So how do we measure it? It's the last one, and then I'm done. I hope I stick with the time. We have some general boxes, and we make them green, yellow, and red. This shows our progress, but this is not really what manager want to see, right? Manager want to see something cooler. So we have a set of validation rules. This is actually a really cool thing, and I want to take some seconds here to explain that. Our package points to a specific repository, your target repository that you want to migrate to. And then it pulls a couple of information from that repository and it executes a couple, I guess in this case we have 50, 60 most important rules that we want to check. And it runs that validation against your own code base, your repository that you want to migrate. And then it tells you exactly what you need to do to go in sync with the other repository, right? So your goal is not just move the code there and then fix all the bugs. You have it prepared, you do the move, and nothing else happens, but it gets better and faster. No friction, no problem. We had times in our past where we did not went with this approach, and it was a little bit more friction heavy, I would say. We can chart it. Here you see a couple of repositories and the status. You exactly see where your team is, you exactly see where your company is. And this is how we move synchronously. I have 10 seconds left, so let me give some credits, obviously, to the NX team, because we built on that infra so heavily, and it is a wonderful tool. It helps us, and the best part, the majority of this code and these helpful tools is open source, free to use for everyone, and that's thank you, Jeff and Victor, amazing, and thank you for the rest of the team, because you basically help us to migrate a lot of things. I also want to quickly give credits to some of our team members that helped to work on the migrations. Here you go. Please follow them as fast as possible. They're really doing an amazing job. Multi of them are also NX champions, so they know what they do. And that's basically it. We have a service that's called NX Enterprise Consulting. This is what you get when you don't reuse my slides, and we do it for you, and that's it. Thank you for your time, and if there is a question left, I'm around for the next 3 days. Ping me. Bye.